Yes, I'm delighted to once again welcome into studio here in the heart of Newry, Joanne Callan, who since the very beginning of the programme here has been a doyen of great programme constancy. You're here telling us of Try the Alternative and all of the things that you get up to in your professional life. And also, and we're not forgetting Destination Wellbeing. Indeed. Here on Destination Newry. Remind people, because we talk and we talk and we talk on a weekly basis, but I can't remember the last time I said to you, Joanne, do tell me, what is Try the Alternative?
Well, I suppose Try the Alternative, how I do the logo is that when we put the and the alternative together, we get heal in the centre. Oh. So that was sort of, I suppose, the motivation for the name Try the Alternative. And a lot of people will look at holistic therapies and say, yeah, some people say they're alternative therapy, some say that they're, why call them the alternative? Because they've been there for thousands and hundreds of years.
And you wouldn't suggest that they are alternative, because you're not saying ditch the other ones.
So my Try the Alternative is, I suppose, try the alternative to ill health, to pain, to suffering, to emotional and physical pain, and try that, let's embrace well-being as an alternative to sickness. And I think, we have a system that is completely overwhelmed. I mean, you only have to look at social media in the last few days to see how overwhelmed even our local GP out of hours and A&E services have
ambulances, whistleblowers up in Daisy Hill telling us the story of ambulances that are not able to respond, no ambulance available and stuff like this.
Yeah, there's a huge drain on the NHS, and whilst it's a fantastic service, there's a lot of work to be done to help it. And I think my belief would be that each individual has a big part to play in that as well. That it's important in key times, and when when it's acute illness, that we can turn to our GP services, our hospital services, But
the more I see of it, the more I feel it's a very good idea not to get sick.
Well, there is a chain of thought that we have a sick care system rather than a health care system.
Yeah.
And for me, I suppose that's the holistic approach would be very much health centre based. Prevention's better than cure, and let's try and prevent illness and see, are there other ways of living and looking at our life that maybe we need to change ourselves.
And you have, not by chance, you didn't sort of stick a pin in possibilities, but you, before doing Try the Alternative, you researched it and you come up with specific disciplines and courses of action which you felt would make a difference in people's lives.
I suppose, I very much went with the flow with it, Rowan, to be honest. I had always had an interest in holistic therapies right from, my first memory of using aromatherapy was doing my 11+, so I was using rosemary and lavender oil back then, and it was part of my life, really. It was something that I did a lot of, and then increasingly find myself sharing it with other people, or certainly offering options. And really as a part-time hobby, actually, initially, as something to do while I was working full-time, I began to study reflexology.
Yeah.
And reflexology...
Before you leave the aromatherapy, I just want to tell the people that when you come into this studio, you make us a tad happier. You make us smile because you come in as an aromatic presence, and it's a very good idea. If nothing else comes of aromatherapy, that lifting of spirits with a pleasing aroma is very, very good.
Good, yeah.
So reflexology now. Sorry about that.
You're okay. So I studied reflexology, I suppose part-time, just in the evenings, and it was something to do. I was interested in it, and a few of my case studies had really great results. And I remember the one in particular had been trying for a baby for about 8 years, and she came for 6 sessions of reflexology, and on her last session, I remember commenting. I was working on her feet, and I commented, and I sort of asked questions around her cycle and stuff like that, because I could feel something different on her feet.
Wow!
And they felt different. Just everything about them was slightly different. And she sort of answered no, and I was a bit disheartened because I thought, no, there was definitely something different there, and I was
Yeah.
sure I got
Yeah.
it kind of
Yeah.
right. And as I said, I was training at the time. So, but when I spoke to the girl, my tutor, she said, "Oh, don't worry, Joanne." She said that obviously the womb and the ovaries in women change
Yeah.
so regularly. You know, it may have been something, it may not. And at this point, I wasn't even thinking pregnancy. I was just observing the changes. And I went on holidays. That was on the Monday night. On the Friday, I went on holidays and came back 2 weeks later. And on the midweek of my holidays, my case study had just found out she was pregnant.
Hey.
So there was, I suppose, that fascination for me. Not, you know, people would say, would she have got pregnant anyway? Who knows? I mean, that was down to timing and things like that.
Absolutely.
But the fact that she had been trying for 8 years and after
Didn't,
succession
suddenly
of reflexology.
yeah,
But
yeah.
what fascinated me more was the difference in her feet and how I had been very early on, because obviously it was, you know, she could have only more or less just been pregnant, that we were able to pick up on that. So, albeit that I didn't know that I was picking up on it. So those types of, as I've started to see those results.
Yeah. But Joanne, is there, in what you do in reflexology, have you been able to rationalize to your own satisfaction, to your own intellect, how working on point A on your body translates into relief in point B on your body? What is the kind of connectivity that allows it to work?
Well, first and foremost, on each foot we have 7,000 nerve endings. So even if if we step out from the point of it as being reflex points that correlate to other organs in the body, there's 7,000 nerve endings on each foot. So even just working that will have a knock-on effect onto the whole central nervous system, which will bring relaxation, a sense of calmness, a sense of balance, all of that side of things. So first and foremost, that's one element that can't be disputed by anybody.
Yeah,
the nerve endings are there, science knows they're there.
I promise you, I'm not asking this with a view to disputing
Oh,
it.
no.
I'm just interested,
Yeah,
you know.
interested.
And it makes me feel we should avoid at all, now you're telling me 7,000, that we should avoid at all costs the business of walking on fire and all of that. It's not a good idea.
That one,
it's not a good idea for your 7,000, you know.
But, so we've got those, and as we're working on those, we're bringing peace and harmony and calmness, a sense of calmness into the body. Then we translate across to the reflex points and the correlation to the different organs. And what appealed to me about that, why it made sense, was that when I thought about it, our bodies are so finely tuned, so finely designed, in, call it science, call it, whatever way we see the human body has evolved. It has evolved as a very finely tuned organ that can do amazing things. And when we work in tune with how we were designed and nature, then the body works much more effectively. My thought around the reflex points being on the sole of the feet would be that we were obviously naturally designed to walk barefooted on uneven surfaces. I mean, we were never, part of the plan necessarily originally was never that we would have flat shoes and lovely flat surfaces. So for me, it made sense that there would be some way of bringing balance and equilibrium into the whole body through the feet, because they were going to be stimulated constantly, all day, every day, if we go back to how we were designed to walk. The closest probably we have to that experience is of being at a pedestrian crossing and the little bumpy parts on the pedestrian crossing coming up to it, and obviously for blind or vision impaired people. So that idea where we stand on that, you can, even if you're in shoes, you can feel that up through the sole of your feet.
You can.
And for me, reflexology is the, I suppose, the modern day, albeit that it's a very old practice, of stimulating all of those points on the feet to bring balance and equilibrium.
So all of this is to be found in Try the Alternative.
Well, reflexology is the main therapy, and then
Where do people find you?
Probably the easiest way is through the internet, so trythealternative.net, and I work from both home and then I do home visits as well for people. And Reiki would be the other main therapy that I would do. So, but I've just introduced an online booking system, so I'm.
Wow, you've got very sophisticated.
It has made life. Yes, it has made me much. I suppose much more contactable because people can do it. You know, obviously if I'm treating a client, it's difficult for people to get to me,
of course,
because my phone doesn't be on and stuff. So this is a way that they can go online and just book and get their appointment set.
Where are you taking us today on your program, Destination Wellbeing, at 3 o'clock?
Today, and it's hopefully over the next number of weeks in Destination Wellbeing. I suppose previously we've had a lot of therapists on who have spoke about their experience and how they view wellbeing, and we've had some really good discussions. But one of the things that I want to look at going forward is community wellbeing and work that's been done by community groups to support the wellbeing of different groups, variant groups. So today at 3 p.m. we have St Catherine's Girl Guides on, and they're chatting to me just about what they do and how they feel it has impacted their health and their well-being and just their overall view of life and the world. So quite a holistic approach.
Yeah. Am I wrong? But St Catherine's Girl Guides, pregnancy, breastfeeding. Are there any men come to you?
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying to you, because it seems heavily female orientated.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at the well-being area, and certainly any courses or programs that I do, there might be one or two men that will step out and appear there. So I think that's possibly nature, by the nature of what we're talking about. But certainly, yes, I mean, just a couple of weeks ago we had Martin Rafferty on talking about addiction and mental well-being for men. So yes, definitely men are more than welcome to join in the conversation, and hopefully over the next few weeks when we get involved more in the community.
See, I think there's a nonsense thing about men that I often hear said, men aren't good at looking after their health. You hear this all the time. I'm too big a coward not to look after my health. I want to be around for a while. So the intelligent part of me, which is a very small part of me, says, I'm going to make sure I'm okay. Is that not a normal thing? Are men really running away from realities? I'm
never one for hopefully stereotyping and generalising, but I think, yes, I mean,
society does it though.
Yeah,
you've heard it said they don't.
I think doctors would certainly report that men aren't great at coming for regular checkups and going forward. I would have a few male clients, not maybe so many. But then is it the other side of things that, I'm not saying that there's less to go wrong, but we talked quite extensively last week about women's menstrual cycles and stuff like that. Yeah. Is it that men just kind of rattle along until, I'm not saying that they're not prone to illness.
Well, there are illnesses in there.
There are, and it's, but do they maybe have a little bit more of a laid back attitude toward it? Or is it a fearful thing of, I don't want to know, I'd rather not know,
I shall not expose
weakness,
because I am the killer, I'm the hunter.
Yeah, I'm not, I suspect it's probably, I suppose maybe less of that and a wee bit more of the fear side of things. I'd rather not know. But then on the other hand, I mean, we've great work happening here locally as well. I mean, there's so many sports initiatives and so many, we've runners, we've triathletes. There's huge amounts of local sport stuff going on that hopefully is helping with the health conversation as well. So what single gem of wisdom came from the young hearts and minds of St Catherine's Girl Guides? I suppose the biggest thing that I got out of chatting to the girls and out of knowing a little bit more about the Girl Guides is that the stereotype of camping and knots is not, that was the stereotype. I think that's a view a lot of people have, that it's very much about basically tents and learning how to do knots in the Girl Guides and the Scouts. And when you find out a lot more about what they do, there's a great variety. And one of the big things that they're actually very proactively looking for at the moment is girls over the age of 18 who would like to become leaders for some of the younger groups.
Oh, yes.
And that, in order to keep the Girl Guides Association there for girls, what they felt was that for girls who maybe weren't particularly sporty, that it was a great opportunity to be part of a team, because a lot of team things are sports related.
Yes.
And if that's not a particular interest, in a serious way, so they do outdoor activities, they do a certain amount of sports and exercise and different things, but not to the dedicated role that maybe somebody who was running or swimming or playing football was.
You mentioned Scouts, and I have to say, I was a Scout growing up, and I loved it. And I did camping, I did tying knots, I did survival, to the extent that even to this day, I look after myself in everything. So there's a lot to be said for it.
Yeah, I think, those are elements of it, but there's a lot more, and the girls seem to really get great friendships out of it, a great awareness as well of what's going on in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
So they meet obviously at their camps and things like that, and they may each week pick another Girl Guides group to focus on, and that might be one in maybe South America who have a very different level experience. So
can I ask you about, you were once a girl, not so very long ago, but you, at what point did the burgeoning Joanne Callan start to emerge with the kind of caring wisdom that you started to pull around you? Were you 10? Were you 15 when it all started to come into focus for you?
I don't really know. I mean, I opened my own business at 19, so I presume I'd sort of a fair bit of it done before then. I'm not really sure, Rowan. I think it's...
How much of it came out of school at St. Paul's?
Or primary school or home. I mean, I think there's a certain element of nature versus nurture. Is it just that we...
And is nature, is it in your parents? Is it there? Kind of that entrepreneurial spirit?
I suppose there would be elements of it. I think it's quite a difficult question. I suppose most of us don't ever remember being anybody but who we are.
Yeah, that's a very good answer to a very difficult question, I tell you.
I mean, I don't remember being anybody else other than me. The path has taken me different ways. I did my first journey, which was an emotional healing process at 24, 25, and I remember quite clearly the lady who took me through that saying, "Joanne, I only wish I'd known at 25 what you now know." She was much older. She was in her 60s, I think, probably at that stage. And she said, "I only wish I'd known what you've now known." And that was personal, so that was kind of in how to cope with emotions and let things go and deal with them. So I suppose part of that process maybe has been a bit of it. It hasn't always been easy, and I've no doubt made mistakes and hurt people and let people down and things like that along the way. And as we've talked before, there was a time when it was really very difficult and I was in a horrible place myself. So
are women better at getting... You use the phrase they're letting things go.
Yeah.
Are women better than men? It's hard to generalize, but I just sense that women can let go and move on more easily than men. Women are stronger in that area.
I think in some cases, and some women carry things for years and years and years. I'm not so sure that women are better than men. I think they're maybe more open to doing it, and therefore,
or hiding the hurt.
I'm not so sure that. Again, we're maybe generalising, but if we take it right back to the playground, for example, boys will tend to, not all boys, but generally, the row will happen very quickly, and it'll be done and dusted. And obviously, we've had cases in the last week where it has went to the extremes, and there are extremes.
Goodness gracious.
But generally, it's done and dusted, and it kind of has its moment, and it passes quite quickly. Girls tend to be more at each other, I suppose a wee bit more, for want of a better word, probably we would generalise it or call it a little bit more bitchy. They kind of they keep things going, and it's a little bit more of an underlying kind of...
It's also quite clever at times.
Yeah, there can be a cleverness to it. So I don't think we can generalise in that men or women are better. Perhaps when it comes, what I would say that I find women do, they'll bury their head in the sand less. So they'll take so much, and then they generally, again, we are generalising, but I think men will bury their head in the sand and kind of, rather than rock the boat or change things or do anything, they'll stick with where they are, and maybe rather than being open. But I also think that's changing as well. So.
Joanne Callan, thank you very, very much indeed.
Thank you.
I'm a wiser man now than I was 20 minutes ago. Thank you for coming in. And catch her today,
yes.
3:30, Destination Wellbeing on Destination Newry.
Yeah, and the girls from the guides will hopefully open up some eyes. And if, particularly maybe anybody that's thinking of teaching over the age of 18, the guides could be a great way of getting some experience.
Volunteering is
always
good.
And getting involved in an organisation that is very looking for a lot for that, but where you can make a positive influence or difference on the lives of young women in the area.
We shall now place ourselves at the mercy of Sean Byrne, who's going to press a button and do great things.